Okay, welcome everyone. Today we're going to discuss direct and indirect speech. And you can see this table of mine, the tense table. And with the help of this tense table, I'm going to explain a few rules about direct and indirect speech. That is, if you have a sentence in direct speech, how do you convert it to reported speech or indirect speech? Now, just remember, this is rule number one, that if there is a word, a verb in the present tense in the direct speech. All right. So if there is a verb in the present tense in the direct speech, then in the indirect speech, it is changed to the corresponding past tense. So this is the indirect speech. This is the direct speech. This is the indirect speech. So if we say now, she writes a letter. All right. So in the indirect speech, it will be she wrote a letter. If it is she is writing a letter right now, direct speech, Maya said that she was writing a letter then. All right. Similarly, if it is she has written a letter, Jaya said that he had written a letter. Similarly, if in the direct speech you see she has been writing an essay, in the indirect speech you say she had been writing her essay all day. So this is rule number one. All the present tenses in the direct speech are converted to the corresponding past tenses in indirect speech. So that is rule number one. But what happens if you have a, a past tense in the if you have a past tense in the direct speech? What do you do then? So in that case, for example, oh, I wrote a letter. Supposing you have this in the direct speech. So, how do you write this in indirect speech? The past simple is converted to the past perfect. So, in indirect speech, you say, he said that he had written a letter. So, remember this rule. If if the word is in the past tense in the direct speech, it is converted to the past perfect in the indirect speech. Similarly, if it is in the past continuous in the direct speech, for example, he was writing a letter, that's what he said. So if I have to convert it into reported speech, I'm going to use the perfect continuous tense, the past perfect continuous tense. He said that he had been writing a letter. So remember this, if you have the past simple in the direct speech, it is converted to the past perfect in the indirect speech. And if you have a word or a verb in the past continuous form in the direct speech, it is converted to the past perfect continuous in the indirect speech. This is rule number two. Rule number one was all present tenses are converted to the corresponding past tenses. Rule number two is if you already have the past tense in the direct speech, then the past simple is converted to the past perfect in the indirect speech, and the past continuous is converted to the past perfect continuous in the indirect speech. All right. So this, if it sounds a little confusing, play this video again or ask me questions, I'll clear it. And the last thing that I'm going to tell you in this video is these modals, shall, will, can, and may. Okay, I'll just shift this a bit this side or this side, I think, so that you can see it properly. Yeah. So shall in the direct speech becomes should in the indirect speech. Similarly, will becomes would, can becomes could, and may becomes might. But if these are already in the direct speech, Do they change in the indirect speech? No, they remain the same. Similarly, there's one more thing I had to tell you here. Supposing you have the perfect tenses in the direct speech. Okay, what happens then? Do they change? No, they remain the same. So if you had, I had written a letter, and now I have to tell somebody what you said. She said that she had written a letter. It will remain the same in the indirect speech as well. All right, we'll go through these rules again. They are also given in your book, so you can go through them. And if there's anything you haven't understood, put a question in the chat box and I'll try and answer. I'll tell you which exercises you need to do, all right, so that you can complete them and send them to me. Should there be any problem, let me know. You can have a good look at my tense table here, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye for now.